Well, Mickey Clown, Bonds for the Win, sister. We are, I feel like we're sisters from another mother, don't you?
Totally. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror half the time and you're so intelligent. I'm always like, dang, this girl's a quick study.
Oh, okay. I wasn't looking for gratuity here. I just was.
Hey man, I call like I see it. What can I say?
just see you as another female warrior fighter out there. We're trying to get the truth out. So I'm glad I'm bringing you on right now because I'm gonna buttress this behind an interview I did with Michael Yan earlier today, where Michael is sounding the alarm on a great famine, and that's coming. It's worldwide. It's not just here in the United States. We know what's happening with illegal immigration. We know what's going on with this operation in Ukraine. It's, Michael calls it a full-on war, but he's always put together what he calls the triangle of, pandemic, famine, and war always go together, like the three musketeers, he says, pandemic, famine, and war. So when you have one, you're going to get the other two. It's just inevitable. And the scale is relative to the size of each one. If one's big, the rest are big, et cetera, et cetera. So we can live in fear, or we can choose to lead out of fear. We can give people solutions. Michael's been very proactive. Prepare. For 2 years, he's been talking stock up on food. He saw this coming 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. You are a leader in yourself. You got behind Bonds for the Win, and you've led thousands of people nationwide to get into the Bonds for the Win strategy to defeat the mask mandates in public schools, as well as other illegal, unconstitutional corporate acts of tyranny that are happening down even at the local, all the way to the state and federal level. So talk to me about leading out of this current situation in which we find ourselves, because it's pretty dire and we're looking for some wins right now.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I mean, so what's been interesting about Bonds for the Win is it was a huge audit process. Really getting to know who we're dealing with was half the battle, because I don't think we realized it. We watch the fake news, we watch the fake courts, we sit there and we think that we're living in a safe environment, but we don't actually realize that we're living in a police state. And so until you start actually auditing, like, give me your oath of office, show me your credentials, who do you work for? Show me your charter. Who are you working for? Who am I dealing with? Right? Because I know who I am. I know I'm a living woman. Who are you? That was huge, because we realized that number one, we were able to dismantle some of their army by saying, look, you're not covered. You're breaking several laws. There's a set of law forms. Now, this is somewhat debatable depending on who you speak to, but each law form has a separate jurisdiction. Okay. It's very important for people to understand this. There's nature's law, AKA God's law, AKA the 10 Commandments, and we don't break those. Okay. Right. And then lower forms of law, we'll just say it really comes down to nature's law, which is common law, air, so land, air, which is trust law and equity law, and then water, which is admiralty. And admiralty law is like political subdivisions. You're dealing with corporations, people that can make up their own rules. And we were also taught to be virtuous and to follow the rules. Well, if they say it's a rule, it's a rule. But here, let me put this in perspective for people. Under admiralty or political law, that's no different than playing golf on a golf course and following the rules of the game. But can you go and shoot someone on the golf course? No. You can't. So how on earth can an employer force an experimental treatment that has fetal tissue in it, which would make me complicit with murder of a newborn, a 9-month term baby, and it would turn me into a cannibal, all at the same time. So are we breaking God's law? Have we forgotten who we are? Because they flipped it.
That's right.
And so that's where the confusion is. People are just following the rules. Well, you got to know who you're dealing with. So when you pull a charter, what you realize is, and this was the big aha moment, and there are going to be solutions, but people have to enter into this reality now. The aha moment is you're dealing with pirates. It's a complete invasion. The cities, the counties, the states, all pirates, pirate organizations, foreign corporations on your land.
That's right.
And they've taken all your land, they've taken all your wealth, and they've created prisons to fund their mafia.
Well, and they're pretending to be government. They're foreign corporations acting as though they are the government. They're foreign actors on our soil. And, people think of the word foreign like, well, it's the Indian, it's the Chinese, it's the Vietnamese, it's whomever. No, foreign corporation. I mean, look at the language. If you go to register a corporation, it's a foreign entity. It doesn't mean you're off the land of the United States. It means you have something that's on our land that is not part of God's law. And that's what this is. So people that work in corporations aren't evil. They're not, I'm not saying if you have a job working for, Walmart, you're evil. What I'm trying to say is that entity itself is considered a foreign entity because it's not part of God's law. It has its own set of charters and bylaws. And that's what you're talking about. And we started to believe, or we've been misprogrammed through another foreign for-profit corporation called the Department of Education, has misprogrammed our youth for many years now to believe that they are in control and they're the law of the land as opposed to our Constitution, which is written and founded in God's law, AKA the 10 Commandments, and which reflects in our Bill of Rights.
Exactly. So, but I think it goes even deeper. People have to realize it's not just the cities, the counties, and the states. It's also the courts. The courts are foreign territory. They are literally pirates faking wins for us. They act like they care about our rights. They don't care at all about our rights. They're trying to contract with you. They're not just trying to contract with you. They're trying to contract with your corporation so they can draw money from your estate. They are bankers. They're not courts. These are not common law courts of the land. And so when you start digging deeper on who are you, wait a minute, who do you serve? All of the lawyers serve the bar, which is the British Accreditation Registry. So you're dealing in a fake world. It's an illusion. And until we start to rebuild and restore our republic and our original courts, we're not going to ever get remedy, because it's like trying to go on a pirate ship with a sword and you're trying to learn how to sword fight, and they're over there. They know all the rules. They know how to kick you off. They know how to stick you in jail. They know what to do. And they've got the police working for them. They've got the FBI working for them. They've got all their prison guards and their prison wards working for them.
Department of Justice, everybody, the whole kit and caboodle. So help me help my audience, Mickey, because I know you are very well versed in this. Let's explain how courts work. When you're born, you're considered government property. Essentially, you're a dead entity. You get registered with a birth certificate and they put your name in all cap letters, right? You're all capitals. And if people go to register new businesses, when you go to your state website for like in Florida, we have sunbiz.org. That's the Secretary of State's website they use to start up new companies here in Florida. Your company gets registered, but it's registered in all caps names. Your birth certificate, your driver's license, your passport is all caps names because the government has registered you with a social security number, which is the person's equivalent of a corporate EIN number. Remember, a person is not a free people, it's a dead entity. So they're seeing you like a dead entity. Why are you summoned to court? And why is the Admiralty Court different than a common law court, law of the land court?
Really great questions. I think the thing that people have to really realize is that when you enter into Admiralty, the jurisdiction of Admiralty, you're giving up all your rights. When you enter into the jurisdiction of common law, you're holding and claiming all your rights. So
why? What's the difference?
Right. So when it is a corporation, let's say you ask for an oath of office, or you audit the corporation, ask for their charter. When you see it in all caps, that means you're in, and people, by the way, they're going to try to create colors of law. That's another thing they do. They're trying to confuse and misdirect us. That's what they do to turn us against each other. If you create a bunch of names for the same thing, it causes us to argue amongst each other and say, oh, you're talking about the wrong thing. No. So let's talk really quick. Let's set the jurisdiction we're talking about. Water jurisdiction is no different than Admiralty, which is no different than maritime, which is corporate, which is statutory law. It is the same as political law. So all these things are the same thing. So I just want to make sure everyone realizes land, air, water. Let's keep it simple. Don't let anyone muddy it up. So when you're dealing in land, you always have to know your status, your standing, and your character. Your status is, who am I walking in here? Who am I representing? Am I representing a corporation? My dead man, my straw man, AKA person, all that is my all caps name. That's how you know it's your all caps name. Am I walking in as a living woman, taking back and claiming my rights as a living woman? Because only you can claim that. Here's the other thing is, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, this is all fraud. It is fraud that they stole your birth certificate, or that they conned you into your mom basically signing you off as like a lost package at sea. But at the same time, the Pope's gonna look at you and be like, well, no one else claimed you. What? And by the way, I was managing your estate because you weren't competent. What? I mean, they're
Right.
just using the laws, but we were never taught the other
That's right.
side of the board. So
That's
think
right.
of it like being chess. It's complicated chess game, but we can both play, and it's the same rules for both players on both sides. So they've been
Mhm.
playing us with knowledge that that's been hidden from us. And then, of course, as always, they would love nothing more than for us to sit around and argue with each other about jurisdiction, about science, about what's fair.
Right.
We
Right.
don't have to do any of that anymore. We just have to know who we are. So that's why it's been a huge educational timeline, right? It's so important for people to follow Bobby Straight and for them to take his courses and to go through the process of becoming a state
David
national.
Straight.
Sorry,
David
David
Straight.
Straight. I always say Bobby Lawrence, David Straight. Sorry.
Right.
Thank
That's
you.
okay. David Straight.
Yeah.
And
We
they
were
have
gonna
a,
have
he's got
Bonnie
a great
Straight on with us
website.
today. We're not sure what happened. So hopefully we'll get her on the next time.
So we've got David Straight. They've got statenational.us is their website. And I've been through the process. I just showed you my passport. I have my passport, which is a US government ID recognizing me as an American state national now, which is a big deal. It means they have to acknowledge I'm outside of their jurisdiction. And I've I've corrected my status as a living free woman, which is fantastic. And I will stand in the court of common law. I don't need to step into an admiralty court because I'm not a dead corporate entity. I'm not a fictional foreign entity anymore. I've corrected my all caps name to my parse syntax, uppercase A, lowercase n, uppercase, semicolon Vandersteel. So I've corrected myself. And I can't tell you how liberating it is right now to know that, because as I just told you off camera, I'm in the process of filling out my IRS Form 56, which basically tells the IRS I no longer, and my revocation of election form, I no longer will be paying the IRS income taxes because I'm no longer a federally jurisdicted citizen. I'm no longer a citizen of the corporate bankrupt United States of America, which is what the IRS 16th Amendment comes down to. So all that is, like you said, corporate law, statutory law. What else did you call it?
Oh, it's a lot. Yeah. I mean, political law, it's
Political
also
law.
as maritime. But so here's the thing. A lot of people ask me, well, but so can I have my rights if I don't go through the state national process? Yes, absolutely.
Right.
When you know your status is I'm a living woman. That's what you can claim on every affidavit you handle, every single piece of paperwork. Yes, you can start claiming that status on your paperwork. You don't need to have it formalized, but it's a good idea to do it because I think a lot of people are learning a lot through the process, and then you join an assembly of others who have learned a lot in the process. And now you're among your people, your people that are going to help you in case you do get tied up with the pirates. So let's talk about the pirates, because that's all they are. If you go to a pirate court, the only way that they can have an administrative tribunal with you, it's called administrative tribunal, whereas in the common law court, it would be a judicial tribunal. Very different, very different. People have to understand these are so different. When you go into an administrative tribunal, they're going to put whatever rules on that piece of paper that they want to. They're pirates. You jumped on a pirate ship. You don't really even want to go to the courts. In fact, you never want to contract with them. They're trying to get you to contract with them so they can draw money from your SESTA KV trust. It's all a con. They're luring you in by trying to get you to break rules or to make it seem like you broke their rules, like wearing a mask. Oh, you didn't wear a mask. You're going to and they can act crazy because they're pirates. They can throw you in their gallows. They can, so yeah, you have to know what you're doing. And then as they break the common law, the law, your constitutional law, you actually have to hold them to a court account. And we do that through the affidavit process. So as everyone's starting to learn what to do when they're acting crazy, it's like, you have ever heard that statement from, I think it's, oh shoot, I can't remember the guy on SNL so long ago. He had this phrase. It was like, never argue with an idiot because someone might see you and they might not be able to tell the difference. You don't want to go to their level. You really don't want to contract with them. So like if a police officer pulls you over trying to enforce their rules on you, their policies on you, you can just say kindly, I conditionally accept, meaning, sure, I'll contract with you if you can prove that you have jurisdiction over me as a living woman.
Right.
And they can't. They don't have jurisdiction over you.
No, they do not. They only have jurisdiction over
standing
who is a citizen. And that means you are a dead fictional entity owned by the corporate owned by the corporation. So you have corrected your status, and you can take it one step further. Mickey, you can take that ticket that you got and just write a big old red line through and say, I do not contract with you.
Yeah.
I do not contract with you because you have no jurisdiction over me.
Yeah.
And they can't prove it. And if you go to a court, the court's going to have to give you the same response because you can prove where you stand in your jurisdiction and your status. Talk to us about walking into court, by the way, because people are terrified to walk into court right now because they don't know what to ask the judge that would challenge the judge's authority and even jurisdiction over a free person walking in there. What does that look like?
Well, I think I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of people have used different chess pieces, and everyone's going to play the game of chess in different ways. So there is no one size fits perfectly for all. However, if I went into court, and I've had that, kind of mock trial play out in my head a few times, if I was going to go to court, I would bring in a doll, which is my straw man.
Your straw man.
And I would let the judge talk to the doll because she says I'm insane, he or she.
Right.
So, I actually think that would be
the judge's oath of office before you even cross the bar into the room.
That's another one. There's a lot of techniques I've seen people do. They've pulled the judge's oath of office. They've pulled the charter of the courts. They've tried to identify where are your rules and guidelines, and limitations. I mean, I've seen them really go in prepared. I've even seen some people notify the IRS that they're about to go in because they're about to act in commerce and they're about to draw money from my Sesta KV Trust. Therefore, they must pay taxes. So when you notify the IRS that they should audit them at the end of the month to make sure they pay taxes on your transaction, now the courts are really going to kick it out because they don't want to pay taxes on their transactions. There's a lot of ways people can do these things, but I probably would go in, and if they kept, first of all, I wouldn't go in unless you're very well seasoned and you're very well trained among your other state nationals. This is something that it almost has to be part of your journey in life. Like this is part of your mission. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I really personally would not contract with the court if I could avoid it. But what you could do is you can say, oftentimes, if the judge is asking you questions, they're actually saying, they're trying to lure you into saying yes at all times. They're trying to lure you into contracting with them. So you say, I do not contract, or you say, I conditionally accept your contract. Let's talk about conditional acceptance offers. You are making conditional acceptances all the time in your household. Your son comes up and asks you at the age of 14, hey, can I play video games? You say, sure, you can play video games if you do the dishes first. That's a conditional acceptance.
Right.
So, sure, judge, I will contract with you if you can prove you have jurisdiction over me as a living woman.
Right.
If you walk in and state who you are initially, like, here's my straw man. I am here to act as the beneficiary, as the living woman for this transaction that I know is occurring, and I'd like to see the true bill. There's so many people are doing this in so many different ways. You know what I'm saying? I haven't personally been called into court to get on the pirate ship and talk to the pirates yet, so I am not prepared to necessarily answer your question. I would hate to give everyone like blanket advice, but your goal is to not contract with them. Your goal is to say no. Kindly, here are my rights. I know my rights. I don't need to get involved. But I do have, let's talk about wins. Let's talk about what's going on behind the scenes and all the people that are testing the system, because I think people really want solutions. I know I focus on solutions. So first and foremost, I think it's important for people to realize that we always had a very solid republic initially in America, in the US. We had a really solid foundation of a republic. And in 1871, each of the states were operating as their own countries. Right. They had their own constitution. The only reason they formed a union was because they wanted to protect against foreign invaders. Okay, so in case there's a foreign invasion, we're going to come together as states and we're going to fight back. Mm-hmm. But they always knew they had to have their own country, their own governance, and their own constitution and their own parliamentary proceedings, their own state seal and flags, in order to protect themselves against domestic overreach, which is the case we're in now, right? That's right. So what happened was in 1871, there were 37 states that had formed a union, and all 37 states left their offices, they vacated, and they came back as corporations. That's the day we got taken over by pirates. People have to understand that. That's when the infiltration occurred. So all you have to do to fix the problem is restore your republic. Go take back your seats. They're vacated.
So it's interesting, Mickey, because I talk about this when I talk about becoming a state national, that in 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified with two states massively objecting. Ohio and New Jersey said, we do not, they didn't want a contract, right, with this 14th Amendment idea, because they understood the 14th Amendment was going to make everybody, like you just explained, we had 37 states, they were all sovereign nations, if you will. They realized they would be giving up their sovereignty to make everybody a federal citizen, when in fact, the USDC, the United States District of Columbia, the corporation was formed, like you said, that was supposed to be 10 square miles, but this 14th Amendment gave everybody citizenship federally, and it basically usurped their sovereignty, their individual state nationals, Florida state national, Texas state national, New Jersey state national, Virginia state national. They all became nationals under the United States of America, became citizens. And that's where they really, I think, stole it first. And then 1878, that was kind of like the gravy on top, if you will.
Right, because they're claiming nobility over us.
That's exactly right.
That's the major problem. We can't have anyone claiming nobility. So lawyers, judges, we can't have that. It's not what we set our initial republic up on, right? It's the law of the land, the common law. So what happened in Texas, and this is why, I think it'd be great to get Bonnie on at some point, is to talk about this. They reclaimed their offices. The Republic of Texas is restored. So now they're putting back up their Article 3 common law courts, which is going to allow us as living men and women to get remedy over the pirates. Mm-hmm. Right. But this is a process, and we all have to start to learn how to engage in that new process and to disengage from the fake and engage in what is right under the Republic, because everything they did after 1871 is null and void. It was all fraud. It was fraud vitiates fraud. So that's they rewrote the Constitution in a lot of these states. They replaced all the courts in all these states, even in the original parliamentary proceedings. And I've even got people pulling back meeting notes from before 1800s.
Why do you think that people just let it happen back then?
We didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know. They left, they showed back up, they looked the same. They were dressed up as the governor. They were dressed up as but they're not really truly our governors. They're not of the Republic. They're corporations or political subdivisions. In a lot of cases, there's, subdivisions within subdivisions within subdivisions. So you're dealing with a mafia. And so I get that a lot of people want to invade the mafia, meaning they want to run, they want to hold office, they want to infiltrate. Right. You've got a lot of people that stayed in there that are good people in bad situations that have already infiltrated because they woke up. But here's the thing that we have to realize, and even though it's a little uncomfortable because we have to create all new structure, we have to restore what is good, is that every time you come into a deeper sense of knowing, okay, you have a new understanding of how things really are, you actually have a responsibility to walk in honor with that new knowing. And to quit participating in the bullshit.
Exactly. 100%. That's the reason why I became a state national. I'm not participating in the BS anymore. I refuse to be a party. I want people to know I do not subsidize, fund, nor participate in foreign entanglements that we have no business engaging in. Afghan, Ukraine, Iraq, you name it. I want no part of it, and I don't want to contribute it. I'm going to defund that swamp if it's my last dying breath, and I'm going to refund the kingdom, which is putting ourselves back in God's law and law of the land, common law, and getting back to the basics, which is the Second Covenant Nation. It was founded by people it was a Christian nation. We were founded under God. I mean, you know it, I know it, they know it. Creator is written 4 times in our founding fathers' documents. We shouldn't have deviated from that, but these demons have drug us back into the water.
Exactly.
Into commercial law, political law, whatever you want to call it, but it's not law of the land, it's not common law, and it's certainly not God's law. So that's where we've really fallen down. And it goes back to everything that they've done. They just look at the jabs, look at what's in these jabs, the nanotechnology, mark of the beast, track, trace, everything they're doing is by design. And it's the mark of the beast. It is.
And now we know what can happen. I mean, I hate to say it, but this international wake up had to happen. We had a decent relationship with our authorities up until 2020. And then we realized how they can overreach and how they can come and really harm our people. And we've lost all remedy along the way. So
Yeah.
we've got to say enough's enough. I really do appreciate all the lions out there that are running for office who want to invade the pirate ship and change all the rules. But each of the pirate ships are working in lockstep. Okay. It's like going into a massive mafia thinking that you're going to be able to change it. It's a little naive of us, and just being honest. What is really important is that we do that blink of an eye flip and we say, enough with the crap. I'm going to go focus in on, I actually do believe, Anne, because I'm watching it happen, that there's a lot of states that have taken back and reclaimed their republic. They now have standing on land. They're taking back their land. They're taking back their patents and their property. They're able, once you reclaim your office as governor of the original republic, now you can call in the military. Remember that whole time during Antifa, no one could call in the military because the governors wouldn't allow it? That's because the pirates wouldn't allow the military to come in. Well, now that you've reclaimed your republic, you get to dictate, and you can run all the bad courts out, and you can.
And that's right. You just reminded me, Trump kept saying, if the governors call, I'll send the National Guard, but he cannot send the National Guard without the governor requesting the help. And they never called for help.
Exactly.
Especially in the cities that were burning down. That was
not a single city. Every single city council had the right to say, no, we're not going to participate in this agenda. And not a single city did it. They all let their local businesses burn down and become unessential. We're dealing with pirates. We had to see it. We unfortunately had to see it. So one way you can identify it for yourself is you can audit them. You can ask them for their oath of office. Anyone who's holding office, ask them for their oath of office, whether it's a school board or whether it's at the city. And you'll see that they've signed an oath to the corporation. So let's talk about another remedy. Now, this is happening all throughout the country. And again, I want people to know that there's a lot of people who are learning their rights. They're learning how to reestablish common law. So there's another court hearing that I witnessed about 2 weeks ago. Any woman, living woman or man on the land. Oh, shoot, we got Bonnie. Should we bring her in?
Yeah, let's bring Bonnie in.
May as well.
Sunshine in this dark place. I love it.
And it's sunshine. I love it because it's the sun, the Jesus Christ.
That's right. That's awesome.
Well, anyway, so I was in this court, and so anyone can invoke a common law court, which is a trial by peers. And hey, Bonnie, can you hear us?
Hey, hi, honey. How are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good.
Bonnie, it's great to have you on. We are just recording right now. Bonnie Straight, this is a pleasure to have you on. We just got done singing the praises of the Republic of Texas, for which you are a key piece of that puzzle. It's the first state to stand the Republic back up, which is fantastic. And so thank you for coming on here. Really appreciate you.
You bet.
Did you want to put your camera on by any chance, or are you in a place where you can?
Yeah, let me do that. I just got back from other appointment. So
No worries. No worries. So I'll let, while you're figuring that out, go ahead, Nikki, finish your story, because this is good.
So this young woman had her children ripped away from her about 3 years ago. When she first got notice from the courts that she was unfit, she thought it was a total joke. She was like, are you kidding me? She'd been so involved in her kids' lives. She was a stay-at-home mom, so she wasn't bringing in lots of revenue, but she was, at every single soccer game, doing everything, all the things that quintessential mom does. Well, the city, the court, and the lawyers conspired, and this is happening all over the world. People have to realize how valuable children are to these courts. And they had conspired to basically rip her children away by declaring that she was mentally unfit, but they had no evidence, and they didn't do any of the proper procedures. She had the right to call a trial by jury. But anyway, so what happened was she called a common law court. We did it virtually. We had a justice of the peace, AKA a judge. We had counsel representing her. They invited all the defendants, and they didn't show up. And they also had a trial by peers. There were 16 peers, all state nationals. At the end of their deliberation, they came out and they listened to the testimonies. They did all the proper proceedings. At the end of the deliberation, they came out and awarded her $300 million and her children back within 2 days.
Whoa.
Because they charged the county for conspiring at 100 million. They charge the court for conspiring at 100 million. So those are the two corporations they charge. And then they
Wow.
charge each of the individuals, the lawyers and the
And-
parties that were fabricating evidence.
Has she been paid yet, or what's the
That's
status?
the next. See, that's what I haven't been launching this from the rooftops yet because I want to see all the remedies take place. I want to see it all the way full circle before we start launching this to the world. But I think everyone needs to start researching what it takes to invoke a common law court, because this is, again, a judicial. And Bonnie, feel free to jump in and speak on this if you'd like. But as I understand, this is, you're leaving the administrative tribunal and you're entering into a judicial tribunal. And so these individuals, I mean, this is the concept is, if you're going to charge me with something, okay, whether it be the courts, whether it be a lawyer or whatever, if you're going to charge me with being an unfit mom, I demand a trial by jury so that I can bring my friends in and you can see I'm not an unfit mom. Do you know what I'm saying? And I want my
Absolutely.
friends to hear my trial because I'm working my butt off here. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And so they've kind of got us trapped in an illusion. And until we break from the illusion and learn how to run things the way things are always meant to be, you know what I'm saying? We start putting our energy into the learning of that. I don't see anything changing. Now, the next steps were she was supposed to file it with the sheriff. And if the sheriff does not comply and send it to the treasury, now he's complicit and part of the conspiracy. And then the next step was to send direct to the treasury. Okay. So
Wow.
there are ways to file this. This is why I keep suggesting and talking to people, you got to join your assemblies now. And inside those assemblies, these local, you know, it's like a local township. This was the way it was always meant to be. You're going to set up a group of people that understand the law, who are there to protect you if you get yourself in trouble with the maritime jurisdiction law. You've got to have that. You know,
Yeah.
you need to have people that understand true law, who haven't signed an oath to the queen. Do you know what I mean? And you need a group of people that are going to understand how to help you become a creditor. There's a lot more to that we're going to start breaking down for the people, but that you got to know that in these assemblies, you're going to find safety. You're going to find a group of healers that actually know how to heal, so that what if you do have to go to the hospital for any reason, you want to be able to call up your healers and know exactly what you can do before you enter into, again, the pirate hospital. So, you know, the assemblies are going to allow us to protect one another. You know, and it's safety in numbers. Again, if we got 1% to start investing in each other and to start investing in protecting our townships, that is the solution. And I'd love to hear Bonnie's thoughts on that as well.
I was just going to say, Bonnie, I wanted you to chime in here because, first of all, establish who you are in the Republic of Texas, please, Bonnie.
I am Counsel General for the Republic of Texas. I don't know if my camera's on or not. I'm trying to make that work. This is
No,
all on my phone.
It's not
It's
on.
okay.
Let me see if I can. No, it won't. Maybe Mickey, you can ask her to turn it on. It will send her like a little thing. If you on those three little dots, ask her to turn her camera on it. Maybe it will give her a prompt. So you're Counsel General in the Republic of Texas. What does that mean?
So think of Attorney General, which is
Okay.
a typical role for the state of agent. The state of Texas is not legitimate government, and here's why. Back in the 1870s, during the War Powers era of Lincoln, when he incorporated all the states and made them all for-profit corporations, what they left behind was real de jure government. Government is set up to protect the people. When it starts to harm the people because there's profits to be made through extortion, fraud, racketeering, it's not government anymore, because government is set up to protect its people, not to harm its people. And just as Mickey had described about this one woman who is fighting for her children against illegitimate claims that she's an unfit mother, this happens every day across our nation. We have millions of children being stolen from homes through fraud and racketeering of draining the kids' trust accounts that most parents don't even know exist, right? So especially single mothers are very vulnerable for this stuff. You know, I got involved in a CPS case a couple of weeks ago, where a CPS agent was at a mother's gate trying to get in her property. And the mother called me frantic. Bonnie, what do I do? I got on the phone with the CPS agent. I challenged her, and first words out of her mouth, "Are you a licensed attorney?" And I said, "Well,
Huh.
first of all, the state of Texas issued licenses to practice law. It's a common law right operating by any man or woman who's competent in the law. Now, there's in the Administrative Procedures Act, I have a right as a non-attorney to represent anyone. Now, I've been found competent in the law. I've studied their laws, their codes and statutes that they pretend are law. The US Supreme Court says they're not law, they're corporate bylaws. The real law of the land is the liberty of the people, which is codified in our Constitution, both the state Constitution and the US Constitution.
Right.
What's so powerful about what Mickey said about common law courts is that the Seventh Amendment is so powerful. It's a trial by jury at common law in controversies exceeding $20.
Yeah.
The facts found cannot be re-examined by any court in the United States. That's powerful because the jurors are the fact finders. They are the ones to apply the facts to the law. Because a remedy has been subverted and hidden from us, we have the right to create our own remedy. Did you know that? That's a maxim of law.
That's
And
right.
so when they try to pin us down, totally deprive us of a remedy, we create our own, which is exactly what that common law court did. Now, what's interesting is the people created Article 3 courts, right?
Right.
That's where the people are protected in their rights and well, what has replaced our Article 3 courts are Article 1 courts created by the legislature.
Right.
Most people do not know that the legislature cannot create or give power to any of the other two branches, including
right.
it cannot expand its own power.
It's a
So
non-delegation.
when
of
they
power.
create Article 1 courts,
Yep.
they were never given that power by the people. So, when my husband and I go out and we teach, my point when I shared the third day is, did we give the CDC? Are they the fifth branch of government? And the audience will say, no. And I'll say, well, what WHO? How about the local city councils? Is that the fifth branch of government? No, we, the people, have never given up anything but limited power to one of these three branches:
That's right.
legislative, judicial, and executive. They're very distinct. They're very separated, not morph power to the other side and create and give immunizations to the other side, because that's an expansion of power. The people never authorized that. We create, they do not create. We're the creators. They are not creators. That power was never given to them.
That's
I
right.
truly believe with all my heart that judges have created the CPS arm to create causes of action, to be monetized in the courts, bonds sold on the stock market. All these judges have international securities licensing numbers where they're selling and creating securities from the cause of action. Any good parent is going to fight to the death for their children, and they'll sign all the documents and they'll enter into all the contracts with the state, and they basically waive all their rights.
That's
As
right.
soon as you hire an attorney, it's a bar card holder. They
Yep.
are foreign. They're so foreign, they have to have a treaty with us to operate on our soil. They violate their treaty all the time. They have breached that treaty. Why? Because they use their fraud to extort money from the people. They will not represent their client. They represent the bar, and they have one thing in mind, and it
Right.
is to extort money to create a bigger storm, which that's bartry. That's a penal code crime in Texas. I don't know if it is in the other nation states, but you can find it in our penal codes. It's against their own codes and statutes. They do it all the time. Why? Because they're self-regulating. Nobody stops their power. Nobody knows the difference. They don't realize until way after the fact, oh, I just spent $400,000 with my attorney and I lost every step of the way. And yet I was the one in the right. Well, then why are you losing? Because your attorney's not doing their job. What they're doing in the courts is this: when you have a bar card holder represent you,
Mhm.
when the other side has a bar card holder representing them, and the judge is a bar card holder, What they're doing is creating is the essential of a PMA, a private membership association. So how you throw a wrench in their racketeering and fraud is you don't have an attorney, because as soon as you do, you're considered mentally incompetent, unable to operate yourself as a living man or woman that's competent in the law. We're creators of government. You know, if a judge ever has asked me, are you a lawyer? My first answer is, I am the law. I'm the creator of government. You want to know about me? I'm more than happy to tell you about my founding fathers who created this government. And I am the law. And even in their own Administrative Procedures Act, I have a right to represent anyone as a non-attorney. And that's a right that's codified. Administrative Procedures Act is the judge's playbook.
So
And
Bonnie,
I can read it to you if you want me to, right out of.
I have a question for you, because I talk about this when I do talk about becoming a state national. I explain what happened with Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1935 with the Federal Register Act, basically creating the administrative state, which really was extremely unconstitutional, because any unelected, or should we say appointed agency head, like a Fauci or the head of the CDC or the FDA or NIH or you name it, any appointed official is not. Oh, there you go. Hey, Bonnie, my other sister from another mother. But any agency appointed person is not legally, lawfully allowed to, make quotes laws or mandates or tell us what to do, because they are appointed. They're not elected by the people. So I guess the question I have for you is, if you were standing in front of President Trump, and assuming he was still the president, which he is, of the du jour republic, but if you're standing in front of him, why would you ask him why he didn't, as the de facto president of the corporation, just strike the the Federal Register Act from the books, that executive order that was stood up under FDR in 1935? Because that's what I would want to know. Why didn't you just negate that? And that would kind of let the air out of the balloon of all these administrative agencies, and we can start defunding all that garbage, because those people have run amok and they've killed millions worldwide.
Well, can I just add to that too? I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone saw, but there were 20 judges in New York who recently resigned because they have COVID.
Yeah.
So that just means there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes, Anne, but there's a whole lot about this Operation Wake Up that we need to get involved in. Like, we can't sit here and expect them to come save us at all times. They've already
I
been
agree.
saving us.
I agree.
They really
That's
are saving. I mean, like, I've been looking at both sides of this coin, but really this is where we activate in the new holy realm. We're not going to create a kingdom of heaven on earth if we don't get active right now, if we don't start to take part in what the new kingdom looks like. I'll let you speak on that too, Bonnie.
Bonnie, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Here's my thought on your question. We don't have to have Trump step up and do anything for us. The people have the power. So when there are legislative laws that are passed, the people can rule on them. Just like you've said, the common law courts, the people can see that the legislature does something to expand their own power, or
Right.
to expand power to one of the other two branches that's not legitimate. We can hold a common law court and undo any ruling done by anyone. In New York, I get these feeds from Jay Sekulow, and I think he's a man that loves right doing. He keeps giving me these email feeds, and he doesn't know me, but I get email feeds from him that talk about this abortion, that you can murder a baby that's up to 28 days old.
I know.
Well,
Disgusting.
the people have the power to. We've never authorized murder, sanctioned murder on these children. These children are organ harvested. They're used in satanic ritual abuse. These vampires are drinking blood of children. I mean, there's so much demonic activity that are done to our babies. It's a satanic system. We the people don't have to have Trump do it. We are the ones with the power tools. If
And one could argue
we saw through Obama,
he doesn't actually have jurisdiction.
Obama.
Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Well, he's the law enforcement branch. So we have laws, and the supreme law is the Bible. right? It's the difference between right and wrong. What does the finger of God say? That murder is against that sixth commandment. We don't authorize murder of babies on our soil. So when the legislator or the city councilman, they pass these municipal ordinances, we are the ones that step up and say, no, we don't authorize that conduct.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
do not endorse it. And if you try to endorse it, we'll prosecute you and justice will be swift. We'll give you due process. We'll give you an opportunity to be heard, present evidence. And then if you're found guilty of a war crime of genocide, it's already in the Nuremberg Code, is codified in our federal code book, 18 USC 1091 forbids genocide. That's genocide. Infanticide is genocide. You're murdering little babies up to 28 days old, and they're going to do that in New York City.
Yeah.
So we have to, when the legislature passes unconstitutional laws that infringe on our gun rights, we have the power to undo it. When they're taking away our children without due process, we know that's not government. That's nothing but kidnapping. These judges are operating in their private capacity. They're selling securities out the back door of every courthouse in every county. Why are we not stopping that? Why are we not stopping the fraud, extortion, and racketeering? At the
so I
last
think-
event Dave and I held,
I think we need to talk about
Go
the
ahead.
solutions then too, because obviously we can only talk about the problem for so long before people start getting frustrated because they want to do something. But until they learn this affidavit process and they learn the power of the mighty pen and they learn the power of invoking a common law court, because it's really pretty unrealistic for us to think that maybe in I don't know, New York right now, they can call a common law court a jury by peers and put these people on trial, right? Just yet, because they haven't created the
Right.
foundation or restored the foundation.
that is the remedy. You know what? It's in their Administrative Procedures Act. When you have an affidavit that goes unrebutted 3 times and you send it to them in the mail, registered mail, what are the elements of an affidavit? They have sworn. When I draft one, I always have from the desk of in the upper right corner, because that's the creditor's side of the document. It's going to be styled as sworn facts in the form of an affidavit. I number the facts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through 50, or try to keep it as short and concise as possible. Plead facts showing standard of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 8. So rather than you coming to label conclusions in your affidavit, like somebody that says, hey, my Fourth Amendment rights were violated without due process, you actually have to show facts. Plead facts showing is the standard. So in a Fourth Amendment illegal search or seizure without a warrant, with no probable cause and no due process, you have to plead those facts.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you of how to do that, but then you swear under penalty of perjury, you have it notarized, or you have 2 witnesses sign it that witness your signature. That's biblical. 2 witnesses equivalent to a notary. What you do is you send that to the perpetrator that did the illegal search and seizure, for example, or the cruel and unusual punishment that the 8th Amendment forbids. All these things are also in your state constitution. Quote it as well in your affidavit. You can make a simple statement like, oh, by the way, the 4th Amendment was clearly established since December 15, 1791. Therefore, the defendant cannot plead federal qualified immunity, which is the only immunity that can be pled in federal court. There are no state law immunities that can be applied in federal court, but you have to know that. So one of the ways you win the chess game is your pleadings are so strong and they cannot be rebutted. So you're entitled to a summary judgment because the other side cannot respond to your facts that are sworn under penalty of perjury.
Right.
They can't do it without committing perjury themselves. Win. So you can also make a simple statement that because I have been injured, let's say a child seizure, for example, my kids were taken without a notice, opportunity to be heard, opportunity to cross-examine witnesses. There was no trial by jury, and list the date that event happened. And then you can list what would remedy your situation? The immediate return of my children unharmed and 500,000 per for every day that they have been seized and stolen without due process of law. And you put those facts in about what would restore you. You know, if there is no remedy at law, you have a remedy in equity. People don't know that. A remedy in equity is a higher form of law. It's to make things right. There are fewer maxims of equity. There's lots of maxims at law, but if there is no remedy at law, you have a remedy in equity. Now, what's interesting when I, teach people how to sue judges, and I know I'm not going to be popular in the judge world ever because I've already sued them and know how to do it well. You take them in under the cause of action breach of fiduciary duty. You
Mhm.
have access to federal court breach of fiduciary duty in exclusive equity jurisdiction. And I've got all kinds of US Supreme Court briefs on exclusive equity jurisdiction in federal court. And I've got 10 pages of documentation on that cause of action breach of fiduciary duty. See, they're all operating in trust law.
Exactly. So I was about to say
And
that you're
in
getting
trust
into
law,
the
they-
jurisdiction of air, right? Air, which is trust law,
Trust
which
law.
is
Yeah.
equity.
Underneath
Ecclesiastical.
in trust, you're the beneficiary of the trust, they're the trustee, and you get to tell them what to do. You have to protect my rights at all times. Is that correct, Your Honor? Underneath your oath of office in Texas, it's codified in the Texas Constitution in Section 1. You have an oath of office where you swore to uphold my rights. Is that correct? Yes. Great. I accept that as a contract between you and I. Here's a silver coin. There's something of real value. Here's the silver coin, because the maxim of law is a workman's worthy of his hire. I'm paying you as my trustee to protect my rights at all times. We have a contract, don't we?
Mhm.
What can they say? Well, yes, we do, because you just gave them something of real value.
Right.
So I always have silver on me. Even if I'm wearing it around my neck and a medallion on my necklace, I've always got silver. When you give somebody silver, it creates a contract. That's how they get us,
That's right.
right?
That's
They
right.
do implied. When we have a conversation with them, they're assuming that they have a contract. Well, we didn't agree to anything. You know what I mean? But we
So,
get
can
them
I
by giving
ask
them
you-
something of real value.
Bonnie, I want to just interrupt you there with an
Yeah, go ahead.
implied contract. Can you stop a judge in his tracks and say, by no means am I accepting any implied contracts here in this conversation? Is there something you can say to buttress that so that you protect yourself from their sneaky trick of implied contracts?
You can tell them right up front. Well, one of the best ways to do it is to say, because there is a US Supreme Court decision called Clearfield Trust versus United States that said since governments have chosen to incorporate, they have to follow all the same rules as other corporations. How do corporations operate? Through contract law. So if you are compelled to go to court against free will, you as a prudent woman or
Mhm.
prudent man have a right to fiery. So the first question out of my mouth would be, Your Honor, I'm here by special appearance. Is there a wet ink signature contract between you and I where I have agreed to acquiesce to every demand you have? If there is such a contract that exists that I've agreed to in writing, I will follow it to the letter of the law. However, if no contract exists, I do not consent to contract with this court. Having said that, if you don't supply a contract, this case is over and I demand you dismiss it. And if there are any court costs, I'm going to authorize trust payment out of my trust account, which I know you're trustee because I'm the beneficiary. You're my trustee. I'm going to authorize any payment to any injured party come right out of my trust.
Injured,
They have nowhere to go.
because you have no injured
Yeah,
party.
if there's an injured party. And a lot of times people are taken into court where there is no injured party. And the first thing that they need to say is, Your Honor, I'm unaware of any injured party. If there is no corpus delicti, there's no crime. The court
Right.
cannot create a cause of action nothing and claim that somebody is injured somewhere, well, underneath the confrontation clause, I have a right to cross-examine them. I am suspicious that fraud is being perpetrated upon my trust account.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I've injured somebody, I'm here to heal and restore them and make them whole. And if there is no injured party, this case must be dismissed because I'm very suspicious of fraud and I want an investigation, Your Honor, and you're my co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the Public Charitable Trust. I want you to, start the investigation. Well, they're the creators of the fraud in the first place.
They're not
They
going to
think
people are
that
learning
they
this
don't
stuff, though,
know.
I think, hold on really quick, Bonnie. I think when people are learning this stuff, like you're talking to a chess master here, like Bonnie knows her status standing at all times. So she knows her status is living. And then when she just took the standing into the higher law form, the heir, the trust law, equity law, she now is acting as a beneficiary. She's playing a new role. Does that make sense? Like you got to know what hat you're wearing at all times. This is why I say no one's going to be able to figure this stuff out overnight. That's why it's good to join your assembly and good to join a group of people. There's groups popping up all over Telegram now and learn the law. Learn how to play the chess game. Learn what kind of chess game you're playing when you're playing it. There's different types of jurisdictions and you got to know. So she's taking higher ground.
It's funny how I think back to how people always refer to President Trump as a master chess player. I mean, granted, he does play chess, the real game of chess with Barron, and he's quite good, but they use it all the time that it's 3D chess, 4D chess, 5D chess. Could it be that they're referring to this master game here?
They can't wait to get you to look incompetent by playing the wrong move. They can't wait. That's what their whole entire goal is try to catch you in making a mistake in the game. Would you agree, Bonnie?
Oh, yeah. Well, and one of the ways is that we act in dishonor. We'll go in there with a hot head, sharp. One of the best things you can do is just stay in honor. Your Honor, I'm here to settle the matter today. Where's the injured party? Then I might cross-examine them. And if they put on facts, sworn under penalty of perjury, that I've injured them, I'm going to go ahead and authorize you as my trustee to go ahead and access my trust and pull funds out of it to restore them and make them whole. So, if there's somebody there that I know I've injured, and again, it's a higher standard. We have so much money in our trust, and that's why it was set up, was for our benefit, that if we injured someone incidentally, we could restore them and make them whole, which is biblical.
Right.
So when we go in honor and say, Honor, I'm here to go ahead and restore them and make them whole, where are they? And then they'll say something silly like, oh, it's the peace and dignity of the state. Awesome, Your Honor. Well, I happen to have brought the state of Texas with me. It's the people is defined as the state, people that follow certain practices and customs and lived within a certain national boundary area. Well, I happen to have brought them with me. So I'm going to go ahead and put them on the stand now. I've got 20 people. So you put your friends on. You say, hey, Susie, did I injure you? The peace and dignity of you whenever I and the stop sign. And they're going to say, well, no, you didn't. There's no injured party. There's no corpus delicti. No, you did not injure me. Great. All right. Next witness. David, did I injure the peace and dignity of you when I, ran the stop sign? Well, no, you didn't. So you just put on the state yourself, cross-examine the state, bring the state with you. All these witnesses are the state. I'm going to put them on. They have nowhere to go. And you're just staying in honor. And if you have a bar card holder that makes facts that are not in evidence and just starts throwing out their false facts that are not sworn from the witness box, you have a duty to perfect the record and object to anything the bar card holder says. And you would say something like this, Your Honor, obviously this bar card holder thinks that he has facts. I need to go ahead and put him in the witness box so he can swear those facts under penalty of perjury. Otherwise, he is not authorized to sit in the courtroom and spout off facts that are not in existence. And the judge is going to overrule me, right? Because they have their own their bar card game that they're playing. And then I'll say, Your Honor, I must demand, because you're going to take ownership of the courtroom, I must demand that you stay in honor, do not participate in the fraud of this bar card holder. He is misstating facts and he's not even just willing to swear under penalty of perjury. And now you're going to endorse his conduct, which would make you an accessory after the fact. I want you to
Right.
stay in honor. Am I the only non-bar card holder in the room, and I'm the only one staying in honor? Why is that?
That's right.
So, I mean, yeah, you have to know how to navigate through the courtroom and the shenanigans that they'll try to pull on you. Object to
that's-
everything.
But Bonnie, in other
Stops-
words, for somebody who's not literate in verbose in this language, because it's all new to them, because they've never had to learn it, because they've been taught that if you don't go to law school, you can't even begin to help yourself in a court. So you need to hire a lawyer. We've all been brainwashed to believe that. Would it be advisable to bring somebody who is knowledgeable, like yourself, or somebody who has a better handle of knowledge than most people do at this time, into a court to be counsel to them?
Yes, it does help, because
Okay.
two minds, and certainly I'll have to be a bar card holder. Counsel under the Sixth Amendment does not say bar card holder. And when you have judges that will challenge people, well, I'm not going to let you talk in this courtroom unless you're an attorney, a licensed attorney. So you could say something like, Your Honor, I have the same license you do. What? Yeah, we actually got our license on the same day. The bottom line is you don't have a license either, Your Honor. You have a private membership association card, right? It's like being a member of Costco or the local gym where you're a private member, or maybe your country club. It's the same thing. The state does not license that profession because they can't.
Right.
It doesn't come from the state. It comes from a foreign entity, and it's just nothing but a private membership association.
Yeah, so I know that
So
a lot
anyway,
of people
yeah.
are, sorry, one sec. So I know that a lot of people are getting drawn into the courts, but really we don't want to end up contracting or get drawn into these courts in any way, shape, or form. So really, I think we should maybe focus more of our attention on the solution, which is the republic, the common law courts, the way it's supposed to be run, the judicial tribunals. So have you seen any of that occurring in Texas, Bonnie? Have you seen any progress on the title? Sorry, I always call it title, but the Article 3 common law courts?
Yes, we have, my dear. It's a beautiful thing. In the 90s, in 95, we actually held, this is long before my time, right? I joined the Republic of Texas about 4 years ago in 2018. In 95, these men in Texas resurrected the Republic. They started holding monthly congressional meetings, holding common law courts, and the beautiful thing happened. The loser of the common law court took the case into the fraud court world of the state of Texas on appeal. Guess what happened?
What?
They lost. Here's what the appellate court said: we don't have jurisdiction. This is already a settled matter. Res judicata applies. It's a final judgment. Why? Because that Seventh Amendment is so powerful.
That's
Courts
it.
that common law and controversies of 20, the facts found by a trial by jury cannot be re-examined by any court in the United States. So here's what happened. The loser, and this happened in 95, the loser then took it on to the Texas Supreme Court. The Texas Supreme Court said the same thing. We do not have jurisdiction. This is already a settled matter. It's res judicata. In other words, that was their opinion. They couldn't touch it. It was already a settled matter. How beautiful is that?
It's
Seventh
precedent.
Amendment. It cannot be re-examined. Yeah, it's huge. So
Mhm.
see, that's the tool that really is our, there's so many people being injured. There's so much. I mean, David gets 300 emails a day, and I'm starting to get almost as many of people just begging for relief. And, you know, poor David, he wears himself weary. And so do I, of just trying to give people over the phone remedies of things that they can do. So what we're doing is we're putting together videos where people can go and click on per topic.
Yeah.
And we've created a website called coffeewithdavidstraight.com, coffeewithbonniestraight.com, where people can go and click on the videos. We just made one. I saw it yesterday. It's being uploaded, where it talks about so much about what we're doing. The common law court judgment, here's the cause number on it, 951 2002. We have ordered those pleadings from the Texas Supreme Court, because again, this was, back in 95. So it's almost 27 years ago, right? I want to see the pleadings in them. They're stored on microfiche somewhere. So we're resurrecting those pleadings so that we can review them and see what was pled and how beautifully it was done. But even since I've been here at the Republic of Texas, we have rendered common law court judgments in the last 4 years. Now, what we do is we take them into their fraud courts underneath a legislative created remedy called the Uniform Foreign Judgment Enforcement Act. Why is it foreign? Because we are foreign to them. We're not a part of their corporation. As a matter of fact, we've even gone to The Hague, the Republic of Texas has,
Okay.
and The Hague says we don't have jurisdiction because you're not a corporation. Therefore, we don't have jurisdiction. You see, even The Hague is over corporation, not over living men and women. So they couldn't touch our common law cause of action either or undo it. So that's really our remedy, is to form a jury pool. And there's a US Supreme Court decision called Neal versus Cruden that says a jury of your peers are your neighbors
Mhm.
and people that know your character. So that is a legitimate jury of your peers. Well, in the Republic of Texas, how inappropriate would it be for us, the living men and women who've corrected our status, become American state or Texian American nationals, to go into a corporate court of the citizens, the US citizens that are 14th Amendment employees of the corporation?
Right.
Why would that be our peer?
It's
It'd be
not.
like going into an administrative with Walmart employees, right? I don't work for Walmart. I don't work for the state of Texas as a corporation. I don't work for the United States, which is a for-profit corporation. Why would I go in their courts expecting a real jury trial or a trial by jury? I can't. They're operating a totally different system. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense and it's very beautifully articulated. And I think it's fairly crystal clear. I know some people might be hearing all of this for the first time. They're going, what are these three blondes talking about? Although one of the blondes is still in the dark. We need to get that sunshine in the dark place. But Bonnie, truly, this is where we have to go as a country if we're ever going to stand up and reclaim our republic, because that is what was stolen back in the late 1800s. And they started coming for us once the Revolutionary War or the tide was turning. They're like, well, stop sending bodies over there. We're going to come at them a different way. And corporate tyranny was the practice they use. And they've been quite effective at it. They've been doing it for 200, almost 50 years now here on this soil. But there are people, Bonnie, how many people so far to your knowledge have actually completed the process, at least through the passport phase of becoming a state national, an American state national?
Well, David is getting those numbers from the State Department. They're telling him it's 2.2 million now.
That's great.
2.2 million, and probably 100,000 a month that are adding to those numbers. But it's grown at such an accelerated rate when people are becoming informed. We are seeing our classes, when David and I are teaching these classes, hundreds of people are turned away because the venue's too small. So we're having online attendees as well as those who are physically present. But we recently held one where we had to turn away 200 people that wanted to join.
Wow.
Physically. We had to turn them away because the venue wasn't big enough.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there's people, you think about every person, the average person, which, the ladies on this call, I know, are above average. We've actually been given by God in his mercy a voice to speak where people want to hear what we have to say, and that's a blessing, and we're going to use it to glorify our maker. Not everybody has that voice. The average person has a sphere of influence of 250 people. Some of our spheres are bigger, and
that's
Vanderstel, you have hundreds of thousands.
Can I add to that, Bonnie? I think one of the reasons a lot of the truthers are kind of afraid to touch this hidden knowledge is because they don't want to mess it up. I know for me, I'm a student. I'm in disciple mode here. I am not in apostle mode. I am not ready to teach it. I am ready to learn it. And so
Right.
I'm an eager, willing learner. And as a lot of this the truther movement, we got to realize our responsibility and if nothing else,
Amen.
we need to be reposting David Strait's information and reposting everything that they're doing so that the people that can't make it into the, actual conference can get the knowledge and get the understanding and again, form their own local groups. So this is so essential what you guys are doing. It's literally game
Absolutely.
changing, Bonnie. It's amazing.
It's I'm so encouraged by this.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the day Bobby called me, Bobby Lawrence, in January of 21, right after J6, in fact, and said, we got to talk, girl. So I said, all right. 3 hours later, my jaw's on the floor. I'm going, I've heard bits and pieces of this, but the way you're putting it into context is now making so much sense to me. And, from January of 2021 to today, Bobby Lawrence, his knowledge, his level of comprehension that I've witnessed grow he's an authority. You and your husband are authorities. I am like Mickey Klon here. I'm still a disciple. I'm a student. I am not out there evangelizing this yet. I'd like to become somebody of your stature someday to be able to teach people the way you can, but I'm still managing a few other hats right now. I got to juggle around, so I don't have that kind of time, but I'm a quick learner.
I mean, they got us all tangled in a big fat mess, but
They
like I
do.
said, if we as truthers can start to bring Bonnie and, David and Bobby onto our channels and get them speaking and also share their seminars. But another big thing that I wanted to talk about really quick is we've been vetting as well various affidavits that are available online. And there's a site called affidavitwarriors.com, and they've got a beautiful affidavit laid out. What I really like about it is it pretty much goes through, I'm just going to give the really high points. And I think people should go read this so that you can learn the language, learn what people are doing when they serve. So obviously for my group, we audited and we served letters of intent. But now if these schools come back out next year and try to mask our kids again or keep pushing their agendas, it's important we know what remedy we have under the mighty pen. So affidavitwarriors.com has a sample affidavit, and in that it sets the standing. It says who you are, who I am. Let's set that first, right? So it sets the status and the standing right out the gate. And then it pretty much says, I understand you want to mask our kids, or I understand you want to take authority over me, or I understand you think that you have some say in, this. But the fact is, unless you can prove the masks are not causing harm, then
Right.
you are knowingly causing harm, right?
Right.
Or show me the contract that I signed where I gave up my child's rights to breed.
Right.
Show me how you have jurisdiction over me. And then again, it's an affidavit. So it's got your testimony, the truth, basically under penalty of perjury. You have to give your testimony. You've got to give some evidence of the fact. How are they trying to master kids? Where is the dialogue between you and the school, for example, or you and the city council that they're pushing this upon the people, right? So you do have to provide the proof within there. But then you give them the notice of claim, AKA the true bill, which this is the settlement amount. If you continue to do what you're doing, this is going to be what you owe us.
Right.
But then you give them an opportunity to cure, because the opportunity to cure is you can either resign and walk away and I'll drop this, or
Yeah.
you can sign an oath to we the people and the actual Constitution come on the good side, become de jure. We'll show you how. We'll invite you into our assemblies. Right? A lot of these are good people in bad situations. They're just trying to be virtuous. They don't know they're breaking, higher laws of the land. Do you know what I'm saying? They think they're protecting the people, but they're not. They're harming the people, right? So then the last
Mhm.
option is you roll the dice. You let
That's
this
right.
play out. And unless they can rebut within 21 days with a testimony of truth and fact, meaning it's their affidavit back to you, which is their rebut, under penalty of perjury, then, and they can't come back to you and say, well, we don't have jurisdiction. Yeah, no kidding, Sherlock. You don't have jurisdiction. Why
Right.
are you claiming jurisdiction? And if you keep claiming jurisdiction in that affidavit, and Bonnie, I'm really curious what you think of this, the way that they were handling it is they are actually charging them for extortion. They're charging them for, intention to cause harm. They're charging them for impersonating an elected official and oath of office fraud, because you are acting as if you are government and you can't prove you're government. So you can't prove you
right.
have authority. Therefore, you're an imposter. You're posing as an elected official.
Right.
And just the fee for that alone is $250,000.
Right. And you wouldn't necessarily put that in a affidavit other than showing the facts that they did to cause the harm. And hopefully the facts that you're able to put in that affidavit, you can show that it's intentional, like you put them on notice that you don't consent and they acted anyway, then you know that their intent is to create harm. But one of my best arguments is to challenge them about practicing medicine without a license, because they're not a licensed doctor. And yet they're going to, in a school, say that you're automatically going to get sick unless you wear the mask, which
Right.
we all know is a bunch of hooey, just stuff made up. And we don't authorize that conduct. What are they going to do next? Make me wear a leopard print thong bikini in public? No, I'm not going to. That would not be pretty. And I'm not going to do that. What to wear, you know? So the bottom line is the mask is about submission, but they're also lining the mask with chemicals that when we breathe those chemicals in, they do harm to our lungs. They're
That's true.
finding these bits of chemicals in the people
In the
wearing the
lungs.
masks.
I know.
So it's just another side.
It's another grievance. Well,
They don't.
I think just about everybody can probably recognize grievances that they have against this corporate tyranny, this corporate government a corporation posing as government. They're not. And they could actually start to leverage these processes. I have my list of grievances in a variety of areas of my life that have been, and it's mostly because I became a public figure and they didn't like what I was saying. And they certainly were trying to slow me down, but it hasn't intimidated me. Has it caused some harm? Absolutely. I have been harmed. Other people have been harmed because of my inability to get to places, but this too shall be addressed. And I think, again, another case study, like me becoming very publicly an American State National, one of the reasons I know I've been squeezed by certain agencies in this country is going to then boomerang on them, because I'm going to continue to march forward in the light of truth, in God's law, in the laws of nature on this land. I'm going to use these processes to hold these people to account and make them pay. So, and this is fully in my jurisdiction to do so. They're out of line completely, and we're going to.
And I do think
it's dumbing it down for the average everyday person, so they
but it's
understand
important. It is
Yeah.
important for the people to know this is chess. It's a long game. You don't win in one move.
No,
okay?
you don't.
You just don't. You got to learn
Right.
that this is a step-by-step procedural approach. So after you issue your affidavit, right,
Mhm.
and they received it, you give them 21 days, and then you give them another notice that this says, again, they have this opportunity to cure, give them 7 more days.
That's
And if
right.
they don't, then you basically have to accept their admission of guilt.
That's right.
And so you notarize that through a notary. A notary is a magistrate and they are bonded.
That's right.
So
Certificate of default.
that's their default. They can't rebut it after that. They can't. And now they owe the claim. They owe the amount of the true bill. You
That's
have
right.
99 years to recoup on that amount. So wait till the common law courts come up, or wait till the Treasury figures all this stuff out. All I'm saying is get it on paper, then give them their 90-day, their 60-day, their 30-day, or however you want to do your countdown.
Right.
If they still don't pay it, though,
well,
if they still don't pay
Right.
it, you
Well, they
have to
teach-
be prepared to file a lien against them, to bond them.
Right.
You have to be prepared to put a
right,
lien.
Bonnie, go
lien
ahead
their
and
property,
explain
you can
this.
file a UCC. So when we teach it's 30, 15, 10 judgment day, right? So following banking codes under 15 USC is we're going to follow the banking procedure. So within 2.5 months, you should have a judgment. So no, it's not immediate, but you do have a little bit of time.
Right.
You're giving them 30 days to respond. I always add a cover letter. Mickey, did I ever send you a copy of the transgression fee schedule that I give to my civil servants, putting them on
Yes.
notice of what I charge when they transgress? So I put them on notice with that. And then when they transgress my rights, I'll put an affidavit together explaining what they did, and I'll list time, date, event. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be simple numbered points of day, time, and exactly what happened, the facts that took place that injured me,
Right.
swearing under penalty of perjury, having it notarized, witnesses, mailing it to them registered mail, putting a cover letter on it, giving them notice that they need to respond in the same way by affidavit of truth, rebutting point by point every point in my affidavit. And if they do not, I'm entitled to a judgment. So I'm putting them on notice in that cover letter. When they don't respond, because they never do, especially if they're your civil servants,
No,
because they operate
no.
in lies and fraud, and they operate in truth.
Mhm.
So I sent them another one within 15 days.
Right.
Is second notice opportunity to cure. Same, hey, by the way, I sent you this earlier. You did not respond. You now have a second opportunity to rebut all these facts herein. If you do not have a judgment, please see the attached affidavit. Third time would be the 10 days. After 15 days is exhausted, you're going to send them a third notice, registered mail. You're going to have those green card attached to the registered mail. So that's basically your form of receipt that yes, they did get it. You know, they
Mhm.
can't say, I never got it. Yeah, you did. Hard to
Yeah.
prove it. When you get the green cards back, save them and store them, because you're going to take them all in under summary judgment in federal court. And it's payday, where you ask the federal judge for a remedy, you know, against this person. And hopefully you listed in your affidavits, they're going to be the same exact affidavit 3 times mailed. The 4th time, you just send them notice of default. I'm entitled to a judgment based on all these facts. You have not responded.
Right.
Here's my 4th time. You can just any time after the 10th day is exhausted. You know, I'm entitled to a judgment, go file in federal court. Hopefully in your affidavit, you're listing the amount of money that would be equitably restorative to the injuries that they caused. Like
Right.
if they stole your home, your car, your kids, and it's hard to put a price on your children. God, I mean, you know,
And
how
this
do you
is
put a
it.
price
I
on
mean,
your kids?
like, this is it, guys. Like, we don't know what they're going to do at the end of summer. We don't know what kind of, you know, narrative they're going to push on our kids or whatever, but we got to be ready. This is a man to man. It's like, it's a conditional acceptance offer. It's like, okay, I understand you want to mask my child. Doesn't matter if it's the principal, the teacher, anyone enforcing the rule is essentially doing harm. So
Right.
you can give this affidavit. Just
Right.
imagine if you give the affidavit to every board member, they're going to turn on each other. They're going to look at each other and be like, I didn't sign up for this. I am personally liable now. And I know now that my insurance company is not going to cover me for any criminal liability. So I'm holding the liability and I'm not doing this again. It's
Right.
a way to dismantle their army. It's the mighty pen. Even if you don't plan on following through, even if you don't plan on going all the way to the end of this procedure, playing one move gets them all to fall back.
It does.
Especially if you've got a board that starts turning on each other, whether it be at the city
Mhm.
level, whether it be at the school board level, whatever. So we have to start taking action. We have to start practicing standing in honor. Again, when you know more, you cannot acquiesce. Acquiescence is dishonorable.
That's right.
Sitting there and acting like they're not doing harm to our kids, putting these masks on 50 million children whose parents don't have the means to pull them out, is dishonorable. You got to do something, people. Learn the mighty pen. Join an assembly so you have a group of people that you have the support, the community support to do it.
There's a Florida Assembly meeting this Friday in Venice, Florida at the Hollow 2A. For anybody living in Florida, there is a Florida Assembly meeting this Friday evening, 7 p.m. in the Hollow 2A. It's going to be, I'm sure, very interesting because people are like we are. They're like-minded, they're fed up, and they realize they've got to stand up and resurrect the system that we were intended to be governed by, which was us, we the people, and get out of this broken matrix that we're in, which is corporate tyranny. And I'm glad to see it happening in Florida, because while everybody's running to Florida saying, oh, Florida's the freest state, you have the best governor, da, 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 guess what? We're still a corporation down here. And until we reestablish a de jure republic of Florida, we're not out of the matrix. So this is in fact what has to happen.
And if anyone's wanting to start an assembly in their local area, I do highly recommend americas-assembly.com. This
Yeah.
is the new de jure sheriff of the Texas Republic. The Republic of Texas, the de jure sheriff. His name is Sheriff Joshua James, and he runs a great assembly. He's got over 10,000 people coming every Tuesday and Thursday. And if nothing else, it teaches you how to run one locally. Go
That's
ahead,
right.
Bonnie. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I was just going to say, we love our Floridian friends, and but one of the hot issues in Florida is that there's a lot of child trafficking that happens there. A lot of it.
There's also a lot
There's
of fraud
a
around the
lot
electricity bills.
Of it.
There's a lot of racketeering.
But that's
around.
everywhere. Florida.
Yeah. Well, I have had a lot of people contact me saying that DeSantis signed a deal with this electricity company, and now suddenly they're taking $200 bills to $1,000 bills, and they're shutting down businesses and all sorts of stuff. And again, this is designed to wake us up, help us realize that these electricity companies are drawing money from your SESTA KV and then sending you a statement. They cannot just come turn off your power. Like this, we got to realize that we've kind of gotten pretty deep in here. We've gotten deep into trusting these pirates. And now that it's obvious what kind of overreach they can do and how they can create monopolies and literally come turn off our I know people that have meat packing or meat delis, and then they come and turn off the power. All the meat's going south, and then the business is being rendered again unnecessary simply because they can't pay their bills. Like, this isn't okay. This is overreach. We've got to learn how to stand up for ourselves now.
Bonnie, I want you to finish your thought though on Florida and the child trafficking.
Well, we got a call in March. Bobby Lawrence was here. We held an event in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Bobby was in for that. And we got a phone call while we were all here in the office. And it was a man who was very concerned about a woman that was confined in a Florida jail. She was in her 30s. And to hear him tell the story, this young has been trafficked and used as a breeder since she was 8 years old, giving birth over and over and over again to children. If you can imagine a baby fitting through the hips of an 8-year-old child, I cannot even imagine. This woman was so torn up in her lady parts and her anal parts that she's had to have reconstructive surgery multiple times because they have used her body in violent ways to commit all these sex crimes, just pimping her out. And it's done through the courts and the judges. This lady was held no bail in a Florida jail somewhere. And, David and I are hearing the story. Bobby was the one that brought the call to us because it was somebody that had Bobby's phone number. And I'm hearing the man's story, and I can't help but feel so helpless because I'm not physically in. And how much can I do? And there's only so many people that we can personally get involved in helping, because there's more injuries out there than we can. So we have to, when their nation state, fight for these people's freedom. This lady is continually being pimped out by judges through the jails. I mean, this is nothing new. This girl has been a breeder since she was 8. She's in her mid-30s now.
Unbelievable. What a
And
horrific story.
Around that kind of crime happening by people that we trust, that we
Yeah.
think are legitimate office holders, and they're committing the most heinous crimes against the people of their nation state.
Yeah, and they
What
can do
will
it
we do
because they're
about it?
drafting. What will we do about it? We have to stand back up our own republic. We have to become state national so that we can effectively re-engage with governance of we the people, for the people, of the people. All we have to take it back, Bonnie, because they've stood up a crime syndicate, and they're raping and pillaging our own trust to finance and enrich themselves at the expense of all of us. And they're doing it with the pretense that they are government of the people and that they are the consent of the governed. No, they're not. They're all frauds. The 100%, all of them are frauds. Whether they know they're frauds or not, they're frauds. And I would argue that there's a lot of people in Congress that don't even know what they're doing is completely fraudulent. They probably know they're engaged in fraudulent activities. Maybe they're getting paid extra by lobbyists to pass certain legislation, which that needs to go away as well. But that being said, they may not even know that they're working for a corporation. This is how daft some of these people are. They don't even know what they don't know. So,
Right.
we've got you're
Well
said,
said.
We need,
Well said.
that was
Yeah.
so well said, Anne. I mean, we need to establish a peaceful transition of power. And one way to
Right.
do that is to start setting up a structure, a new system. And I know that makes people very uncomfortable because there's no process or procedure in place. So where do I latch on to? How do I cling to that? You do kind of have to be a bit of a visionary and reimagine, re-envision. And that's what's happening, right? I mean, that's why it's so exciting to see what's happening in Texas. And it's actually happening all over the states. It's just happening behind the scenes. So when we go to seek, we find. When we
Right.
call it to us, we find it. And we really do need to start, again, leave the kabuki, come into the good side. It's literally black and white.
That's right. Dark to light.
Leave-
Well, ladies, I
That's
appreciate
right.
your
Well-
time. Thank you both so very much for coming on and just having this conversation. I think this is the kind of conversation that need to be happening in little towns all over this country every single day so that people can start to engage. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's pretty, if you look back, like you said, God's 10 commandments, if we just start to follow those, everything else kind of falls into place. It doesn't have to be complicated. Government has overcomplicated everything because they want to seem like nobody can do it but them. Well, what they've done is they've just raped and pillaged their ways
Right.
through our lives and around the world, frankly. And now the United States government, I call the true enemy of the world. They are the international terror threat worldwide. And it's the corporation of the United States government, the DOD, et cetera. Again, I'm not throwing everybody that works for the government under the bus, but the people that are architecting what they're doing, they are truly evil. And it's corporate fascism, it's corporate tyranny, and they're posing as government, and they're nothing but a bunch of thugs.
And
So,
there's nothing that can stop what's coming because we know.
well, we know
we're-
God wins.
And we know God wins. So now that we know, we act.
That's right. And we act fearlessly.
And scripture says it well, that the righteous will be bold as lions. So we don't have anything to fear. We know that God is on our side. God plus one is authority, and he gives us promises all over his word that no weapon formed against us will prosper. And many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord will deliver us from them all. His plan is to wake us up too. God wants us awake because there's going to be a spiritual revival come out of this. And it's a
Already
good
happened.
thing because the church of God, which is we the people, right? We are the temples of the Holy Spirit. We want to be just living our life in righteousness and in honor and glorify our maker who made us.
And I believe
So
it's
well
happening
said.
right now. I think it's happening. Well, both of you, thank you so much. Mickey, always great to see you. Bonnie, we saw you kind of flash in and out there, but your voice is very powerful. Your knowledge is I don't want to say unmatched because your husband is a real resource, but certainly you have been a bright shining star in this call, and Mickey and I both respect and